help me reach 1,000 subscribers. Please like the video and share your thoughts on the video. Your feedback helps make the contents better. Now let's get to the story. The martini in my hand suddenly felt like the most expensive front row seat to a disaster I never wanted to watch. I was sitting at the hotel rooftop bar, 23 floors above the city, when my phone buzzed. My wife Sarah's text lit up the screen. Meeting a client at the hotel rooftop bar might run late. Don't wait up for dinner. I looked up from my phone and scanned the entrance. That's when I saw her walk in, laughing a little too loud, touching the arm of a man who definitely wasn't dressed like any client I'd ever seen. And sitting right next to me, nursing a glass of wine that looked like it had been there a while, was a woman who kept checking her phone with the kind of desperation that felt familiar. Real familiar. Before we continue, I want to take a moment to thank you for being here. If this story resonates with you, please subscribe and ring that bell. And for our friends in the US and the Philippines, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Your voice truly matters to us, and it helps us grow and connect on a deeper level. My name is Marcus Webb. I'm 34 years old, and up until about 3 minutes ago, I thought I had a pretty solid marriage. I'm an accountant, which I know sounds boring as hell, but it pays well and keeps me sharp with numbers. Numbers don't lie. Numbers make sense. People, on the other hand, are a completely different equation, and I was starting to realize I'd been calculating mine all wrong. The woman next to me sighed loud enough for me to hear it over the jazz music playing through the speakers. She had dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, and she was wearing a blazer that looked expensive. Her phone lit up, and I saw her face fall just a little bit more. Without thinking, I leaned over. "Waiting for someone?" I asked. She looked at me like I'd just asked her to solve world hunger. "My husband. He said he had a late meeting with a client. At this hotel, in this bar." She took a long drink of her wine. But I'm starting to think his definition of client is very different from mine. I felt my stomach drop. "What's your husband's name?" "Derek. Derek Chen. Why?" I pointed across the bar to where Sarah was now sitting in a corner booth, very cozy with a tall Asian guy in an expensive suit. They were leaning close, and her hand was on his knee. His hand was on her back. It was the kind of touching that had nothing to do with business and everything to do with other things I didn't want to think about. The woman next to me stared, and her face went from confused to furious in about half a second. "That son of a bitch!" "Yeah," I said, taking another drink. "That's my wife with him." We sat there for a moment, two strangers united by the worst kind of revelation. She stuck out her hand. "I'm Jennifer. Jen." "Marcus." I shook her hand. "This is officially the worst Thursday of my life." "It's Tuesday," she said. "See, it's so bad I don't even know what day it is." Jen laughed, but it was the kind of laugh that had some crying hiding behind it. "How long have you been married?" 7 years. "You?" 5. "We have 2 kids." She said it like the words hurt coming out. "I've been suspicious for months. He's been distant, always on his phone, working late, but I kept telling myself I was being paranoid, that I was being one of those crazy wives who sees problems where there aren't any." She looked at me. I guess I wasn't paranoid enough. I watched Sarah throw her head back, laughing at something Derek said. She was wearing the blue dress I'd bought her for our anniversary last year. She told me this morning she had a casual day at the office. Apparently, her definition of casual was very different when I wasn't around. "I've been in the dark completely," I admitted. "I mean, I knew she'd been stressed with work, but I just thought she was going for a promotion. She's in marketing at a tech startup, always networking, always meeting people. I never questioned it. I felt like an idiot saying it out loud." Jen pulled out her phone and started taking pictures. "Evidence," she said. "My lawyer's going to love this." Smart. I did the same thing, getting several clear shots of Sarah and Derek together. They were so wrapped up in each other they didn't even notice us sitting at the bar, not 30 feet away. The bartender came over and refilled Jen's wine without asking. He looked at me with the kind of sympathy that suggested he'd seen this exact scenario play out before. "What are you going to do?" Jen asked. "Honestly, I have no idea. Part of me wants to walk over there right now and flip that table. Another part wants to just leave and pretend I never saw any of this.
I swirled my drink. But I know I can't do either of those things. The first one gets me arrested, and the second one makes me a doormat. We could walk over together, Jen suggested. Confront them both at the same time, make a scene, ruin their little date night. It was tempting. God, it was tempting. But I've always been the type to think things through, to plan, to make sure all my moves were calculated. And something about this situation told me that a knee-jerk reaction wasn't going to give me the satisfaction I needed. I needed something better, something that would hurt worse than just embarrassment. No, I said slowly, an idea starting to form in my head. I think we should be smarter about this. Jen looked at me with interest. I'm listening. They don't know we're here. They don't know we know. That gives us an advantage. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. Sarah and I had joint accounts, always had. I scrolled through the recent transactions and felt my blood pressure rising. Hotel charges, restaurant charges I didn't recognize, purchases at stores I'd never been to. It had been going on for at least 3 months, maybe longer. Look at this, I showed Jen. She's been spending money on this affair for months. Hotels, dinners, gifts probably, all coming out of our joint account. Jen looked at the screen and her jaw tightened. Let me check something. She pulled up her own banking app, and after a few minutes of scrolling, her face went pale. Same thing. Hotels, restaurants, even a weekend trip to Napa I thought was for work. We're funding our own betrayals. We sat there, two people who'd been made fools of, watching our spouses have the time of their lives with each other. But instead of falling apart, I felt something else kicking in. That same calculating, number-crunching part of my brain that made me good at my job. I started thinking about assets, about leverage, about how to turn this nightmare into something I could control.
Here's what I'm thinking, I said to Jen. We don't confront them tonight. We let them think they're getting away with it. But we start gathering everything we need. Financial records, more photos, evidence of the affair. We document everything. And then, when the time is right, we hit them with it all at once. A coordinated strike, Jen said, and I could see the gears turning in her head too. I like it. But what's the end game? Just a divorce? I watched Sarah kiss Derek on the cheek, and something cold settled in my chest. No, divorce is just the beginning. I want them to feel what they made us feel. I want consequences. You're talking about revenge. I'm talking about justice. There's a difference. I wasn't sure there was, but it sounded better. Jen finished her wine. I'm in. Whatever you're planning, I'm in. Derek thinks he's so smart, always 10 steps ahead of everyone. I want to watch him realize he wasn't ahead of anything. We exchanged phone numbers and made plans to meet the next day. As we were getting ready to leave, Sarah stood up from the booth, and for one heart-stopping moment, I thought she'd seen me. But she was just heading to the bathroom, giving Derek a lingering touch on his shoulder as she passed. Derek immediately pulled out his phone, probably texting her something cute and inappropriate. Let's get out of here, I said to Jen, before I changed my mind about the whole making a scene thing. We left separately, and I drove home in a daze. The house was dark when I got there. Our house. The one we'd bought 3 years ago, the one we were supposed to grow old in. I walked through the rooms and saw all the little pieces of our life together. Photos on the walls, her coffee mug in the sink from this morning, the throw blanket she always hogged on the couch. Everything looked the same, but it all meant something different now. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my home office and started going through everything. Bank statements, credit card records, phone bills. I created spreadsheets because that's what I do when I need to make sense of chaos. By the time the sun came up, I had a pretty clear timeline of the affair. It started about 4 months ago, right after Sarah's company hired Derek's consulting firm. They'd been meeting at least twice a week, sometimes more. The money spent was in the thousands. My money. Our money. Money I'd been saving for the down payment on the bigger house Sarah said she wanted. The front door opened around 7 in the morning. Sarah came in looking tired but happy, the kind of happy I hadn't seen on her face in months. When she saw me sitting at the kitchen table, she jumped a little. "Marcus, you scared me. What are you doing up so early?" "Couldn't sleep," I said, which was true. "How was your client meeting?" She didn't even hesitate. "Oh, it was fine. Boring, actually. Just going over some campaign strategies. You know how it is." She kissed me on the forehead like she always did, and it took everything in me not to pull away. I'm going to take a shower and then head into the office. Do you want me to make breakfast first? No, I'm good. You go ahead. I watched her walk upstairs, and I listened to the shower turn on. Then I picked up my phone and texted Jen. Day 1 of Operation Revenge. She just lied to my face about last night. How are you holding up? Her response came back quick. Derek came home at midnight with lipstick on his collar, told me he spilled wine on himself at dinner. I'm holding up by imagining his face when this all comes crashing down. Coffee at 10? I'll be there. I met Jen at a cafe across town, somewhere neither Sarah nor Derek would ever go. She looked like she'd slept about as much as I had, which is to say, not at all. We sat in a corner booth and spread out all our evidence on the table like we were planning a heist. I talked to a lawyer this morning, a good one. She said with the evidence we have, we can make this very painful for them in a divorce, especially since they've been using marital funds to carry on the affair. I talked to one too, but here's what I'm thinking. A divorce is going to happen, obviously, but I want more than that. I want them to feel what they made us feel. I want consequences. You're talking about revenge. I'm talking about justice. There's a difference. I wasn't sure there was, but it sounded better. Jen finished her wine. I'm in. Whatever you're planning, I'm in. Derek thinks he's so smart, always 10 steps ahead of everyone. I want to watch him realize he wasn't ahead of anything. We exchanged phone numbers and made plans to meet the next day. As we were getting ready to leave, Sarah stood up from the booth, and for one heart-stopping moment, I thought she'd seen me. But she was just heading to the bathroom, giving Derek a lingering touch on his shoulder as she passed. Derek immediately pulled out his phone, probably texting her something cute and inappropriate. Let's get out of here, I said to Jen, before I changed my mind about the whole making a scene thing. We left separately, and I drove home in a daze. The house was dark when I got there. Our house, the one we'd bought 3 years ago, the one we were supposed to grow old in. I walked through the rooms and saw all the little pieces of our life together. Photos on the walls, her coffee mug in the sink from this morning, the throw blanket she always hogged on the couch. Everything looked the same, but it all meant something different now. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my home office and started going through everything. Bank statements, credit card records, phone bills. I created spreadsheets because that's what I do when I need to make sense of chaos. By the time the sun came up, I had a pretty clear timeline of the affair. It started about 4 months ago, right after Sarah's company hired Derek's consulting firm. They'd been meeting at least twice a week, sometimes more. The money spent was in the thousands. My money. Our money. Money I'd been saving for the down payment on the bigger house Sarah said she wanted. Okay, Jen said. We hire a PI, we get concrete evidence, and then what? Then we wait for the perfect moment. I leaned back in my chair. Sarah's company is hosting a big conference next month. It's a huge deal for them. Lots of industry people, potential investors. She's been talking about it for weeks. She's organizing the whole thing. Derek's firm is probably going to be there, Jen said, catching on. They work with Sarah's company. Exactly. And I'm thinking that's when we drop the bomb, publicly, in front of everyone who matters in their professional lives. I could see the whole thing playing out in my head. We expose the affair in a way that's impossible to ignore or cover up. We ruin the conference, we ruin their reputations, and we make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of people they are. Jen was quiet for a moment. That's brutal, Marcus. They made their choice. We're just making sure there are consequences. She nodded slowly. I'm in. Let's burn it all down. Over the next 3 weeks, Jen and I became partners in something I never thought I'd be part of. We hired a private investigator named Mike, a former cop who specialized in infidelity cases. He was good, real good. Within a week, he had photos of Sarah and Derek checking into hotels together, having intimate dinners, even a weekend trip to a bed and breakfast upstate that they'd both lied about to us. The evidence was damning, but more than that, it was heartbreaking. Seeing my wife with another man in photo after photo, looking happier than I'd seen her in years, it did something to me. It hardened something inside that I didn't know could get hard. I stopped feeling sad and started feeling angry, really angry. Jen and I met regularly to coordinate our plan. We became friends in a weird way, bonded by our shared betrayal. She told me about her marriage to Derek, how he'd become distant after their second child was born, how she tried everything to reconnect with him. I told her about Sarah,
how we'd been high school sweethearts, how I'd thought we were going to be one of those couples that made it forever. "Do you ever wonder if we're doing the right thing?" Jen asked me one day over coffee. "Like maybe we should just file for divorce quietly and move on with our lives." "Every day," I admitted. But then I remember how they looked at that bar, how happy they were, how they're still lying to us right now every single day. And I think about how if we don't do this, they're going to think they got away with it. They're going to think they were smarter than us. "And we can't have that," Jen said with a dark smile. "No, we really can't." The conference was 3 days away when everything was finally in place. Mike had given us a complete dossier of evidence. I'd prepared anonymous emails to be sent to the HR departments of both companies, complete with photos, hotel receipts, and a detailed timeline. Jen had contacted several people who would be at the conference, planting seeds of rumors without revealing our hand. At home, Sarah was stressed about the conference in a way that seemed genuine. She was working late every night, taking calls at all hours, barely sleeping. Part of me almost felt bad for her. Almost. But then I'd remember her hand on Derek's knee at that bar, and the sympathy would evaporate. "I'm so nervous about this conference," she told me the night before. We were in bed and she was scrolling through her phone, probably texting Derek. "There's so much riding on it. If this goes well, I'm pretty much guaranteed that promotion I've been working toward." "I'll do great," I said. And I meant it. She would do great, right up until the moment I destroyed everything. She looked at me with genuine affection. "Thanks, babe. I know I've been distant lately, but I really appreciate you being supportive. After the conference, let's take a vacation. Just the two of us. We need it." The audacity of it almost made me laugh. She was planning a vacation with me while actively having an affair. The cognitive dissonance required for that level of deception was actually impressive. "That sounds perfect," I said. "Where do you want to go?" "Somewhere tropical, somewhere we can just relax and reconnect." "Sure, let's do that." We weren't going to do that. In 3 days, we were going to be filing for divorce, and she was going to be unemployed. The morning of the conference, Sarah left early. She kissed me goodbye and told me she loved me. I said it back because it was habit, but the words felt hollow. As soon as she was gone, I texted Jen, "It's showtime." Her response, "Let's make them regret everything." The conference was being held at a convention center downtown. It was a big deal in the tech industry, with about 500 people attending. Sarah's company had rented out the main hall, and there were going to be presentations, networking sessions, and a big dinner that night. Derek's consulting firm had a booth in the vendor area. Jen and I arrived separately, both dressed professionally. We'd paid for tickets under fake names, using email addresses Sarah and Derek didn't know. The plan was simple but effective. We were going to wait until the evening dinner when everyone was gathered in one place, and then we were going to make our move. I spent the day watching Sarah from a distance. She was in full professional mode, greeting people, making sure everything was running smoothly. She looked beautiful and confident, completely in her element. Derek was working his booth, shaking hands, making connections. They were careful not to interact too much in public, but I caught them exchanging glances across the room, little smiles that said they had a secret. They did have a secret. They just didn't know how many other people were about to learn it. Jen found me around 4 in the afternoon. "Just sent the final batch of photos. These are from this morning. They met at a hotel at 6 a.m. before the conference started." Of course they did. I wasn't even surprised anymore. "Are you ready for tonight?" "More than ready. I want to watch Derek's face when he realizes his perfect life is over." At 6 p.m., everyone gathered in the main ballroom for dinner. There were round tables set up, a stage at the front, and a large screen for presentations. Sarah was at the head table with her boss and several other executives from her company. Derek was at a table with his partners. Jen and I were at a table in the back, anonymous among the crowd. Dinner was served, and then Sarah's boss took the stage to give a welcome speech. He talked about innovation, about the future of the industry, about how grateful he was to everyone for attending. Then he introduced Sarah, who was going to give a presentation about their upcoming product launch. Sarah walked up on stage to applause. She looked nervous but excited. She started her presentation, clicking through slides, talking about market research and consumer trends. She was good at this, really good. In another universe, one where she hadn't cheated on me, I would have been proud of her. I waited until she was about 15 minutes into her presentation, right when she was hitting her stride. Then I pulled out my phone and pressed send on the email I'd prepared.
The email went to the conference's AV team with a simple message: "Please display the attached file on the main screen immediately. This is an urgent matter regarding presenter Sarah Webb." I'd included Mike's credentials as a licensed investigator and framed it as a legal matter that required immediate disclosure. The AV guy must have panicked because about 30 seconds later, Sarah's presentation slides disappeared from the screen. They were replaced with a photo of Sarah and Derek kissing outside a hotel room. The room went silent. Sarah stopped mid-sentence, turned around, and saw the photo of herself on the 20-foot screen behind her. Her face went white. "What the hell?" she whispered, but the microphone picked it up and broadcast it to the entire room. Another photo appeared, this one of them holding hands at a restaurant. Then another, then another. A slideshow of infidelity playing out in front of 500 people from their industry. I watched Derek at his table stand up, his face a mixture of horror and confusion. He was looking around, trying to figure out what was happening. His partners were staring at him with expressions that ranged from shock to disgust. Sarah fumbled with the laptop on the podium, trying to stop the slideshow, but it wasn't connected to her computer. The AV team had taken control. More photos, hotel receipts, bank statements showing the money they'd spent, text messages we'd managed to recover that were graphic and explicit. People in the audience started whispering. Some were taking photos with their phones. Sarah's boss was on his feet, yelling for someone to turn it off. But the damage was done. Everyone had seen everything. Finally, the screen went black. Sarah stood on the stage, tears running down her face, looking out at an audience that was now murmuring and pointing. She saw me then, sitting at my table in the back. Our eyes met across the room, and I saw the moment she understood. The moment she realized I knew, that I'd always known, that this was me. I stood up and started walking toward the exit. As I passed Derek's table, I stopped and looked at him. "You should probably call your lawyer," I said calmly. "You're going to need one." Jen appeared beside me, and together we walked out of the ballroom. Behind us, the room exploded into chaos. People shouting, Sarah crying, Derek trying to explain. We kept walking until we were outside in the cool evening air. "Holy shit," Jen said, and then she started laughing. Not a happy laugh, but the kind of laugh that comes when you've been holding something in for too long. "We actually did it." "We did," I agreed. My hands were shaking, adrenaline coursing through me. No going back now. My phone started ringing. Sarah. I declined the call. It rang again. Declined. Then Derek was calling Jen's phone. She declined too. We'd said everything we needed to say with that slideshow. Over the next few days, everything unfolded exactly as we'd planned. The photos and evidence went viral in their industry circles. Sarah was fired from her company for violating the ethics policy regarding vendor relationships. Derek was removed from his partnership at the consulting firm and forced to forfeit his equity stake. The morality clause we'd found was enforced to the letter. Both of them tried to call us, to explain, to apologize. We didn't answer. Our lawyers did all the talking. The divorce proceedings were brutal. With the evidence we had, their lawyers couldn't argue for anything. Sarah tried to claim she deserved half of everything, but our lawyer pointed out that she'd been using marital funds to conduct an affair. The judge wasn't sympathetic. In the end, I kept the house, most of our savings, and my dignity. Sarah walked away with almost nothing and a reputation that was destroyed in her industry. Jen's divorce was similar. Derek lost his career, his money, and custody arrangements that heavily favored Jen because of his infidelity. 3 months after the conference, Jen and I met for coffee. It was our regular spot, the same cafe where we'd planned everything. "So," she said, stirring her latte, "how are you doing, really?" "Honestly, I'm okay. Better than okay, actually." It was true. The anger had faded, replaced by something calmer. Relief, maybe. I'm sleeping better than I have in months. The house is quiet, but it's my quiet. How about you?
Same. Derek tried to reach out last week. He wanted to apologize, explain his side of things. She rolled her eyes. I told him to communicate through lawyers only. I'm done listening to his excuses. Sarah sent me a long email, told me she made a mistake, that she still loves me, that Derek meant nothing. I took a sip of my coffee. I deleted it without reading past the first paragraph. Good. They don't deserve closure. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. We'd been through something together that had bonded us in a strange way. We weren't romantic, nothing like that, but we understood each other in a way most people wouldn't. "Do you think we went too far?" Jen asked suddenly. "Like ruining their careers and everything?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. No. They made choices. Every time they met up, every time they lied to us, every time they used our money to fund their affair, those were choices. We just made sure those choices had consequences. Real consequences. Consequences, Jen repeated. I like that better than revenge. Consequences sound more mature. She laughed. We publicly humiliated them at a professional conference. I don't think mature is the word anyone would use. Fair point, I smiled. But effective? Definitely effective. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I hope you're happy. You destroyed my life. Sarah from a new phone number. I showed it to Jen. She shook her head. The audacity. She destroyed her own life. I typed back a response. I am happy. For the first time in months, I'm genuinely happy. You should try it sometime and lose this number. Then I blocked the new number too. You know what the best part is? I said to Jen. I heard through a mutual friend that Sarah and Derek tried to make it work after everything fell apart, but it didn't last 2 weeks. Turns out when you build a relationship on lies and betrayal, it doesn't have a great foundation. Shocking, Jen said sarcastically. Who could have possibly predicted that? We finished our coffee and walked out together. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. It was beautiful. Everything was beautiful now that I wasn't living in a lie. You want to grab dinner? Jen asked suddenly. There's a new Italian place that opened up near my house. Nothing romantic, just 2 friends who survived hell together. That sounds perfect, I said. As we walked to our cars, I thought about Sarah's text, about her claiming I'd destroyed her life. Maybe I had, but she'd destroyed mine first, or at least tried to. The difference was I'd rebuilt mine, stronger, smarter, without her. And yeah, maybe the way I'd handled it was extreme. Maybe making a public spectacle of their affair at the conference was over the top. Maybe costing them their careers and their money was harsh. But you know what? They'd made their choices in secret, in hotel rooms and rooftop bars, thinking they were smarter than everyone else, thinking they'd never get caught. I just made sure that when they did get caught, everyone was watching. That's not revenge. That's just really good accounting, making sure the books balance, making sure everyone pays what they owe. And Sarah and Derek, they'd owed quite a bit. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed Marcus's story of turning the tables on betrayal, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories like this. Now, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. Are you Team Marcus, or do you think he went too far? Let me know your thoughts. A special shout out to our amazing viewers from the United States and the Philippines. You guys make up a huge part of our community, and your comments on these stories are always fire. Whether you're watching from New York, Manila, Texas, Cebu, or anywhere in between, I love seeing your perspectives on these revenge tales. Your engagement keeps this channel going strong. So, comment below, where are you watching from, and what would you have done in Marcus's situation? I read every single comment, and who knows, your story might be featured in our next video. Don't forget to share this with someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes people need to know that actions have consequences. Until next time, stay smart, stay strong, and remember, karma might be slow, but a well-planned revenge is right on time.